All right, it's another episode for the PEBAheads here. We've got we'll call this episode one of season six, since we're in the off season, and we've got a loaded lineup of topics today that I think should get the interest of our normal tens of viewers, but might get a couple extra ones because of our guest today. And oh, it switched to Scott. Let's switch this to gallery so we can see our other guest. Welcome, Dylan.
Hi, good to be here. Thanks for
Our
having
white
me.
whale, right,
Yeah.
Sean? One of our
Yeah,
two white whale guests. We managed to land one.
to
Well,
be
yeah,
fair though,
yeah.
Dylan said that he would come on before, and we just haven't had the opportunity yet to do it. But we'll definitely have him on more moving forward to talk all things Toyoma and the even more important topic of being a board member.
It sucks. I hate it. No.
I mean, we just passed Festivus, so we could just have an airing of grievances.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, let's start off with some questions so the league can kind of get to know you a little bit better. And um, how long have you been in PEBA?
Oh man, real life years I don't remember anymore. It's I joined. I want to say 2025, the 20 yeah right before the 2025 season, and I took over the Hartford Harpoon actually. Famously took over 2025 and knocked Greg out of playoffs with really no idea what I was doing, which is pretty funny. And then then the opportunity popped up the season prior to move over to Toyoma, and I kind of took that, and I've just kind of been here ever since. I think that was so I would have joined probably I want to say 2017 in real life, I think around there.
And so you,
Yeah,
you didn't manage them when they were in the LRS, right? You've only done people.
correct. I only took over when they were in PEBA. I wish I would have been around for the LRS. I heard it was very, very fun. So
It was
there
an
were
interesting way to run the league where we had the two leagues. It was fun and interesting.
yeah, it sounded interesting to have the idea of like you're kind of limited in talent, right? Like your best players are probably going to get poached by the upper league, so you have to like budget and you have to find kind of like hidden gems and things like that. So yeah.
Well, it's cool too because like you had enough GMs to do that. Because how many leagues
Mhm.
are you in where it's like three guys leave and then you're trying to find
Mhm.
it's just a continual rotation, and at least that's something here where when we do have someone leave, it seems like we've had pretty good luck of filling those vacancies with people that are invested and stay for the most part.
Yeah, well, we are very, very lucky to be kind of in the situation where we are, where like we don't have to regularly recruit, and we tend to have like a wait list, or we have like old GMs who come back, which I think is
Right?
always
We have a lot of that.
yeah,
People who
I
leave, but they
absolutely
come
love
back.
that, and that's kind of like the entire point. That's the benefit of like the way we sim and like how we're a little bit slower than normal leagues is like if you got stuff going on, you're busy or something like that, you're not you're not you can take a little break. You can maybe not be as active as you usually are. Get like deal with whatever you're dealing with, work with, or take a vacation, whatever. And then we're always sort of here, and we usually unless you leave in like some poor way, you're
Yeah.
always welcome back. So um,
Let me ask you something, Dylan. What part of the country are you in?
East Coast, so I'm in Pennsylvania.
And, oh, PA. Okay. What
Yeah,
part of Pennsylvania?
South Central, so right outside of Harrisburg, the capital.
Nice.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And another question: how did you find out of the park baseball? When did you first get involved in it? How long you been playing the game?
I
Have you
think
been
I.
in any other online leagues?
Oh yeah. So I want to say so. I grew up playing like manager games, mostly browser based.
Do you remember
I
baseball mogul?
I remember Baseball Mogul. I played basically all sports. I played like Goal Line Blitz on browser. There was a good game called Basket Sim, which is basketball. Like, what was the? There was a hockey one. It was good hockey. Like all the old school like browser based management games. And then I just kind of like I was playing a lot of Football Manager in like 2020 or 2012 or like 2013. Saw they had baseball and kind of picked it up, and then kind of got bored with it until I realized that online leagues were a thing, and that kind of completely changed the dynamic. And that's honestly that's the only reason I still play the game. So yeah, and I've been in other leagues through the years. I've helped run other leagues throughout the years, but PEBA's been the only one that I've been in for the past 3 or 4 since like the last league I was in shuttered. But yeah,
Isn't that crazy though? Like how until you realize there are online leagues, like just what that difficulty or that challenge that it unlocks with this game. Because I know for me, like I played solo for a long time and didn't even, even know there were online leagues or really pay much attention to it. And then I think after I had like Justin will appreciate this, after winning like 5 titles in 7 years in solo league, then I would decided is like what difficulty setting do I have on here? Is there anything else I could do? And then that's when I started digging more and saw that holy cow, there's, online leagues and you can compete against real people and not just screw the computer over with trades and like just after that, I barely ever play solo anymore. I don't think I've really played more than a couple seasons.
I've
Just
I've I've not played solo outside of like testing in probably 5 or 6 years. Like it's just I think OOTP has the best like online system to do online leagues. Like it has a fairly large, like I don't want to say large, but a healthy sized online community that wants to play the game. The way like sims can happen with like baseball and there's so many games and there's like so much going on, it makes it a lot easier. Like games like Football Manager, just like the online system is not great. It's more or it's more co-op. Like it's good if you have like a couple friends that want to play and stuff like that. But
yeah.
you can't really host like a full league. I am in a franchise hockey manager hockey league, but the community is a lot smaller and the game is like a quarter of what OOTP is, so it's not really there. So yeah, figuring out this game at online mode and kind of like seeing like the communities that are built in it were like very enticing to me, and I'm lucky I kind of stumbled upon this one. So
I know when I tried playing that the football manager game, the league that Jay put together, like I just I don't know. I think OOTP like kind of skews your view towards every other sim out there because if it's not even anywhere close to the immersion level or like I
yeah,
just felt like that I just lost interest in it really quick because it was just the ratings didn't matter. Like
draft day sports. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's not. I hate the term slop because it gets used so much, but they kind of just that's kind of what it is. They have like they have multiple manager games that are kind of just like I don't say the bare minimum, but just they're just kind of average, right? Like it kind
yeah.
of if you have a taste for basketball or something and you want to play that a bit, you can do that type of thing. But it's not something too detailed. And you're right, like it's not very there's not nearly as much depth as you would find in OTP.
It's like it's wild. Like I love hockey like you do, and it's just like if they could make the hockey version of this anywhere close to like what they have on the baseball side, it would be so
Oh yeah,
much fun.
and it has improved. Just it's not like anywhere near, which sucks because yeah, it's another fun unique sport that like I know others have gotten into by playing the game. But yeah,
Yeah.
So Dylan, Toyama, is that how do you pronounce it?
Toyama, yeah.
Yeah. So Toyama is one of the most winning teams in PEBA throughout its
Mhm.
history. 17 postseason entries, 11 straight. You're
Mhm.
on an 11 straight postseason run, 2 Rodriguez Cups. Um, what what's your winning strategy? Like, what's your preferred way to build a winning team? When I looked over your team before
Mhm.
we did this, you have a tremendous, like almost your entire starting lineup is draft players you drafted. So
Mhm.
I have noticed, we've had podcasts where we looked at team strategies and the ways that different teams build. I know we've made fun of the Avas because like they're in like almost the entire team is traded players that they acquired. Where
Mhm.
you definitely have a draft and develop dominance to your current roster that
Mhm.
I like. And I also noticed your starting catcher is a 17th round draft pick
Mhm.
from 2034. You
Yep.
know, kudos to the last 17th round, Dylan. That's a
That
good
is
find.
that is very much luck. Don't I had nothing for that one.
But again,
Yeah.
you're overwhelmingly your roster is constructed of players that you have drafted and developed.
Mhm.
Is that your preferred way?
So in real life, I'm unfortunately a Seattle Mariners fan, and that's the only way they know how to build teams. So I think it's been beaten into me that like, hey, just draft players. We don't sign big money free agents, even though this year we're starting to dip in that a bit. But no, I've always kind of just approached drafting as like the main tool of rebuilding a team, and like I'm kind of a firm believer in like you don't necessarily unless you're like a bang average team, you don't need to like rebuild necessarily. You can kind of just retool and recycle and kind of like maybe you're not this top 110 win team anymore, but you can still be a 90 win like playoff shot type of team as you're retooling and yeah, just building through the draft. It's kind of just a draft philosophy as I go through. I grab a lot of guys who are more like sure things, but maybe not necessarily like superstar quality. So like I value like an empty injury history, for example. Like injuries piss me off, so I try to find like the healthiest players I can find. I find guys who are going to be like good roster players, and again, they're not going to be all stars or things like that.
High floor rather than a super high ceiling.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then like picking out like players who like if you look at like my center fielder or like my shortstop, guys who are really more there for the defense, like finding like these key players who I think when I drafted my center fielder Carlos Rivera, he was what my he was 32 overall pick. I probably reached for him a little bit, but he was like I knew that I could with like a season of winter ball, I could make his defense at center field what I wanted it to be like this great Gold Glove outfielder type of thing. So I grabbed him, and like I've always been like vocally supportive of people who grab like elite relief pitchers in the first round because I think they're super undervalued, and like it's something that especially if you look at the league right now where I think every single person could post on like their trade block and it'd be, hey, I'm looking for arms like elite back end bullpen, or I'm looking for a
Yep.
young starter. Yeah, so it's yeah, I just kind of I've been drafting in a lot of the late rounds, so I just kind of grab what seems like a sure thing. Um, and yeah, the guy I grabbed, who was it? It's sorry, Higashi. The guy he's the seventh ranked prospect right now. He was drafted in 2042. He was probably the one that I was like sweating to make sure he dropped. Like I was praying he would drop because he's from Toyama. It's the first like really good player who's from Toyama. I was like, okay, I got like I'm gonna if someone else drafts him, then I'm gonna make him like trade target number one going forward. But he kind of fell on my
Hometown
lap.
hero.
So yeah,
Hometown hero.
exactly. Um, but yeah, so I mean, it's kind of just like I said, general draft philosophy, and I'm not necessarily like against trading or anything like that. Um,
Yeah,
I just
you got some trade acquisitions. I just you definitely lean towards draft and develop with the way your
mhm.
current roster is structured.
Yep, and like I don't really. I often say I don't get to participate in free agency because I kind of don't. It's kind of fun to see everyone else kind of especially go crazy for these international free agents that come in, and everyone's kind of you know pining to sign them. But yeah, I'll sign like role players here and there. Like I said, make trades when I kind of need to. But I mean, it could all fail. Like some of these guys couldn't develop, and we might suck. But it's been fun so far. So
Yeah, you second in runs scored, second in runs allowed,
mhm.
and then if you look at your defensive stats, you're definitely a team that understands the importance of defense. Third in defensive efficiency, third in zone rating.
Mhm.
So a nice, well balanced team.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I think I want to say 26 has been a little bit better for me in terms of defense. There's like I think I noticed some guys who were like borderline like average good type of thing, and they kind of look a little bit better this year. I know my second baseman Koyama, I think it was last year. He took a pretty yeah. No, it wasn't too bad. So yeah, it was a little bit better at second base this year, but like yeah, I definitely saw some dips in 25. They kind of gotten a little bit better in 26 defensively. So and yeah, I tend to always value. I especially value defense in like those core positions. Like the second base, shortstop, center field, catcher, things like that. But
So, to switch gears a little bit here,
mhm,
there was an announcement at the winter meetings about some changes in the upcoming season.
mhm,
I know that Sean and I had a pretty interesting podcast discussion on stolen bases and stolen base success rate for
mhm,
PEBA. Then it seemed to kind of grow legs on Slack. There was a considerable amount of discussion about it after the podcast on Slack. Um, think I was comparing our success rate to that of Major League Baseball, and people are like, we're not trying to, be Major League Baseball. I didn't say we were. I just find it interesting to use the comparison, right? How can you not compare our league to the MLB? I mean, it's impossible not to do that.
Mhm.
What do you think, Dylan, is the optimal stolen base success rate? Like, what are we trying as a league to target? And then how can you go into a little bit of detail because you did it at the winter meetings? How did we get from what I assume was a stolen base success rate that the board thought was reasonable, and then the game changed to 2026 or 2000 or out of the park 26? How did that have a massive effect on our stolen base success rate?
Yeah, sure. So ideal like stolen base number, there really isn't like there isn't a number I'm setting other than the numbers that we've like historically have had. So like I'm looking just at the SL in 2041 and 2042. 2041 we had teams averaged 154 stolen bases. In 2042 they averaged 147. So they're floating around that 150 mark. Just double checking the IL, it was 161 and 179, so a little bit higher in the IL. So if anything, I just want to get it as kind of as close to it as it has been. So around those numbers would be ideal in my opinion. We dipped the SL this year was 110 on average. The IL was 141, so there was a pretty steep drop off. And the way this happened is we noticed it would have happened at some point in the transition from 25 to 26. Basically, just what happens, OOTP will randomly decide to change essentially league modifiers. So coming from one number and then it just kind of changed it to a lower number. It dropped it from, it was 1.100 to like 0.779 or something like that. So it's a pretty big drop off. And this is something we noticed probably midway through the season when we really started to see like the stolen base numbers kind of get wonky, and then the runners thrown out, which is pretty funny. Every catcher kind of had a cannon,
Yeah.
but so we noticed it, and it's something that we didn't necessarily want to fix mid season because we don't want to completely f up a season by completely changing the way it kind of is approached. And the reason why it happened, my theory at least, because there's not, it's OOTP, so much of it is like who knows why it does the things it does. But in 24, when we transferred from 24 to 26, they obviously created the new rating system, and they gave you a warning when we transferred over. They're like, hey, at the start of the season, the modifiers are going to readjust to fit like the new system, basically, and then it automatically does that, and we can go in and tweak and fix and like get it to where we want it to be. Fortunately, we didn't have to do too much because like it did a fairly good job. I believe that happened this year, but we didn't get a warning for it. So when we transferred from 25 to 26, whenever we do a transfer, we go into the settings and double check everything. So upon transfer to 26, everything was fine, which means it happened either the first day of preseason or the first day of the regular season when it got readjusted. Those are like the two possible dates when it would actually like readjust.
So like the game does it, or did one of their updates to the game
The
adjust
game
the
does it
modifier?
because so there was a slight change to ratings again in 26. If you remember, like the potential ceiling went from 550 to 600 on the back end. So there was an adjustment, but they said that there wasn't going to be like it didn't need to readjust all the modifiers, and it didn't. It only adjusted one. For whatever reason, something when we either preseason or when we hit the first day of the season caused it to reset or jumble up the numbers just for stolen base success rate.
So you looked at the other, like the hits and the doubles and the
Yep.
triples and the home runs,
Everything
and all
else is
those
completely the same.
modifiers stayed the same.
Mm-hmm. There was
Okay,
only one single change, and it was stolen base success rate.
that's really weird. Because if you
Yep.
set up, so I've set up a default Major League
Mm-hmm.
Baseball team or league in out of the park, and then I've gone in and looked at what the modifiers are, and the stolen base success rate modifiers for a default, you know, Major League Baseball team in out of the park 26, stolen base attempts are 0.395. Stolen base success percentage is 1.368. So like radically different from ours. And I think that's one of the reasons why because I think they're, I mean, it seemed obvious they're trying to mirror Major League Baseball. And when I was looking up, Googling the Major League Baseball stolen base stats and then relaying that into Slack, the success rate in Major League Baseball is crazy high. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I assume that that's gotten better because of the distance between bases, but there is a I think it's like 70 some percent average success rate for the whole Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the good teams are like above 80% in team stolen base success rate. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, we were seeing last season, Sean and I were looking at it, and you'd see, like, if you take a player that I know really well, this Otani, my right fielder, he's got 9 in speed, 8 in stealing aggressiveness, and 10 in stolen base ability. And he had a 65% stolen base success rate. Like
And
I
that's
would,
really like close to leading the league, like compared to
yeah, but I would
last year.
think that an elite stolen base guy with a 10, 9 and 10, ratings in these three different categories should be above 80%, right? Like that's what I would think. You don't
Right.
want guys with, fives across the board having an 80% stolen base success rate. You would assume that they would be much lower.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
I assume that's all going to be correct. I'm expecting a significant increase in stolen base success rate because we've increased our success rate considerably, as you mentioned. I mean,
Mm.
the modifier has gone up, what, 40 some percent, 45, 46%. It's been increased. So,
Yeah.
yeah, from 0.778 to 1.150. I think I'm not a
Yeah. Yeah.
great math guy, but it's like 48% increase. So I
Right.
would assume you're going to see a significant uptick in success rate.
Mm.
My guess, Sean and I have talked about, my gut tells me that there's only going to be, like, you're not going to have a huge increase in stolen bases. I think that the number of stolen bases for the league is probably going to be pretty close to the same. Might be a slight uptick, but I think that the percentage of success rate is going to increase.
Well, I mean, we should get more like, yeah, we should get more successful stores. Yeah, more successful stolen bases. Not,
Because the
not.
the attempt
It should
the
be no
attempt
more like attempts. Yeah, like
yeah, the
it's just
attempt
making more
modifier is
stuff.
staying the same.
Yep.
So there should be an increase in stolen bases. Just I don't think there's going to be a huge increase. What are your thoughts?
Uh, I like so in successful stolen bases there will be a big increase. Well, it should get right back to where we were the previous season. Um, Fingers crossed. It's that easy. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So ideally, it would be what were the numbers I said? Probably an extra 40 stolen bases
per
on
team, whatever.
on average per like each of the leagues. Yeah. So we should see more, but yeah, it should be the same amount of attempted stolen bases, um, assuming that's how the game works and like success rate doesn't have something to do with whether or not they go or something like that. Like that would be the only thing that would change anything, but that I can't predict that. I have no idea, but yeah,
But
it should.
shouldn't the attempts be influenced by the strategies of different teams? I know
Mm,
I noticed last season, at the beginning of the season, I noticed that I had players who were just average at stolen bases were getting crushed. And, I would see like, no successes and 10 caught stealing. So 0 stolen bases and 10 caught stealing. And I'm like, ah. So I would go in and do it and adjust the strategy slider way down. So
mm,
I would make sure these guys weren't stealing as much.
mm.
I would guess that if enough teams did that, you would impact the number of attempts, regardless of what the modifier is. Am I wrong?
Yeah, like if every team went in and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna run their legs off," then yeah, it would definitely like adjust the attempts. But that's kind of the point of having like a baseline for modifiers too, is you want the foundation and then let the players and let the GMs tweak how many stolen bases there are based on talent, based on strategy, based on things like that. So that's kind of like the ideal such a scenario. So like, wait, yeah, the reaction to us fixing stolen bases might be like a bunch of GMs saying, "Hey, stolen bases are better this year than they were last year. I'm going to run more." So we might get more attempts. Like it's entirely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that we would get more attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm assuming that because I already did it. I already went in and all those guys that were okay with, I put them, I'm not I'm not making them run their legs off, but I've got one guy, Otani, and his slider is maxed because he's a 10 in stolen base, ability,
Right.
and 9 in speed, and I figured let him run, right?
Yep.
I hope he gets 80 stolen bases this year. But I've got a bunch of guys that I had their slider down to 0 because I just didn't want them to get thrown out, majority of the time. But a lot of those guys, I've adjusted them up a little bit. Now they're not going to the max, but they might be at the midpoint.
Mhm.
If you're a decent guy.
Right. Yeah, I think I mean, it all comes down to strategy and like how you kind of prefer to run it, and
Well,
yeah,
we know Aurora's going to run their legs off.
yeah, well, yeah, that's no home runs allowed there. Nope.
That is what's interesting though. Like Scott and I have talked about it. We've noticed that like especially in 24 to 25 and then 25 to 26, you're seeing a tighter range of outcomes for specific categories. And Aurora being one of the teams that doesn't have that many power guys, it was interesting seeing that range where it's like, how did they increase their home runs without really doing anything, adding much power? And then you kind of have that step back moment where it's like, oh, well, they're tightening the outcome, so it's getting pulled up to, you have that average stat for the season for teams, and they're kind of getting pulled up that way. So I wonder, like I had a couple managers message me, "Oh, Aurora's going to have 500 stolen bases." I'm like, no, it's probably going to be like home runs where they'll still be stealing at a high clip at a high percentage, but some of those stolen bases are going to get distributed
Mhm.
down the pipeline to kind of have a tighter range of outcomes. So
Mhm.
I think they'll be successful like they always are, but it's not like it used to be where you could, I mean, just dominate the league by having not just this league but OOTP in general, where you could have a whole lineup of home run hitters and hit 500 home runs as a team. Those days are long gone now. So
Mhm. Yeah.
should
What
be
are your
interesting.
thoughts? What are your thoughts, Dylan, on park factors? Sean and I have discussed often the league in general, where you can see. It seems to me, and again, I could be mistaken, that our league leans towards pitching parks as opposed to hitting parks. In that, on the pitching side, there seems to be some more extremes. We have more extreme pitchers parks than we have extreme hitters parks. So I tend to think maybe we lean a little bit towards a pitching park league.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on park factors and how they impact the overall league stats?
Park factors are right now they're the bane of my existence. Because
I'm glad I
for
brought it up.
unrelated to like how they affect the game, but because with CP rewards and trying to figure out how like moving because like so if you might know, you might not, but wall distances, wall heights mean absolutely nothing. They're cosmetic.
That's correct.
Like so we're trying, and the problem is that like if we put the modifier or not the ball if you put the ballpark factors and the wall factors in like a program, they don't match up. So like the cosmetic the cosmetic wall sizes don't mean anything for the actual ballpark factor. So like we're trying to find a way to like implement it so like making changes actually would adjust the factors properly, but we can't. It's going to take such a Herculean effort to like get these numbers lined in that it's just we'll have to adjust something. But no, for so ballpark factors, I actually didn't know we're heavily pitching for factors. I haven't really looked at
That's
them as
that's
at a
how
large scale.
that's how it appears to me.
Mm.
Sean and I have looked at it again. I think you can look at the median, and you see what it's a stats lab thing, right, Sean, that we've been looking at.
I'll pull it up in game here. It's
Yeah, and it's just that we've got a few a couple of really exaggerated pitchers parks, but we don't tend to have much in the way of exaggerated hitters parks. So I'm wondering how that impacts the league.
I mean, it would definitely like skew the average to an extent, but like I mean, even just looking at these numbers, you look at something crazy like Bakersfield,
Yeah,
it's kind of balanced out by Okinawa, right?
Yep.
So like it's I'd have to go through and do the math to see like where the actual average is, but like it's still fairly balanced or at least close enough.
Yeah.
If it was like if the average was like 0.800, then I'd be like, oh, like there's a huge skew, like it's really causing the difference in numbers to the total average. But no, I think it's still fairly balanced. Um, just kind of looking down the board there, yeah. Um, and from what I would say, from what I remember, I would assume pitchers parks would be like more sought after, just because you'd rather have your home ballpark being like I don't know. I feel like
Benefit
it's my
you versus
yeah.
like
You'd rather
other.
like be yeah. You'd rather let in less runs. Like you don't necessarily want to have like the Colorado Rockies ballpark where like everyone just you don't want people coming to your park and just blasting
Yeah,
home
teeing
runs
off on
left
you.
and
Yeah.
right. So like I feel like there's like a mindset there, and that's probably what kind of because I don't know if we've had anyone change factors in years. This is all like a lot of old school stuff. Um, I think John had maybe a preference for pitcher sparks or pitchers in general, which could have influenced a bit. But yeah, and at some point when people were still spending CP on like ballpark factors, I think the things were still lined up, like the factors and the wall sizes. But yeah, it's just it's so hard to get them balanced now, and it might like I said it might adjust the league final stats a little bit, but nothing here I see would be super significant.
No, but it's something you should definitely keep in mind, especially like with the unbalanced schedule that we have.
Hmm.
You got to keep an eye on your own park because half your games are played in your park. So
Hmm.
designing a team that performs well in your own park is essential. But looking at the other teams in your league, where you're going to play the majority of your games are going to be in your park and the parks in your division. So strategizing a team around those parks makes a lot of sense when you're
Hmm.
trying to win.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think that was my biggest takeaway from looking at park factors was just seeing, okay, this is what your park is set up to be, and then here's your primary competition. So like maximize what you do well and figure out where your weaknesses are. And you know, I've long said like Bakersfield, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to teams like that. I think West Virginia is there as well, where you could just totally go a completely opposite strategy from the rest of the league and just heavy pitching, heavy defense, and
Right, right.
Greg
So
No
successfully does.
home runs. Right.
I used to have a philosophy because everyone knows Greg and how like he's not as active as he was, but he's a big wheeler and dealer, likes to trade and stuff like that. I had always had a rule: do not trust a pitcher from West Virginia because the numbers they put up in West Virginia, they're not going to do shit when they get here. Like it's
Yep.
not gonna
Well, and
it's not going to work.
looking at the home and away splits is important with these because sometimes I have been surprised at some of these lopsided parks, and then I look at the home and away splits, and it's like, well, they're not as exaggerated as you would think.
Mhm. Yeah.
So if they perform, fairly well away, then I don't necessarily discount that player.
Yeah, it is interesting too. So one of like the greatest people players of all time, Marcus Hancock, spent a lot of time, a few seasons in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons in Bakersfield. So he wonders how much that park. I wonder if he credited that ballpark when he accepted his Hall of Fame introduction. But yeah, because I mean, but he was in 10 people for that, and he was a great pitcher in general. But yeah, it probably definitely helped. But yeah.
From the lakes of Duluth to Havana's warm breeze, Reno's desert lights glow, where the crowds have a freeze. Kentucky's waters with the bats held high, to a sandlot dreams tucked the wide open sky. Palm Springs brings the heat where the sun always shines. 32 teams united, crossing every line. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swinging for the stars in the bareback game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the back to the roar of the fight. Planetary stream, we're igniting the night. Oh, that is the name. Oh, we're the game. Scottish Piper cheer as the bases all run. New Orleans rhythm swings till the battle is won. And Tempe's rolling the dice with the fastball surprise. Toyoma's precision lights up in our eyes. Nahamashi's heart beats strong when the dust meets the dream. Florida's golden fields where the champions claim. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the PEBAheads game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight, planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 that is the name. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. Reaching the dreams, one world, one fight. From dusk till dawn, we're burning so bright. Every pitch, every hit, every play in the zone. The Planetary Baseball Alliance, we're never alone. From the fields to the stands, here the planet unites. He pays the spot, and we're taking flight. Swing for the stars in the PEBAheads game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight, planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 that is the name. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. We're changing the game. So raise up with your gloves, let the banners fly high. From San Juan to Kalamazoo, we're reaching the sky. Planetary extreme baseball alliance, where the legends are born. Swing for the stars, let the world hear our roar.
All right, we're going to switch topics now and kind of talk about another uh, another topic that was brought up during winter meetings, which was the draft pools and the feeder leagues and some of the things, Dylan, that you're seeing on that front.
Right. And we kind of discussed this a little bit off camera here for a sec, but one big thing I want to point out before we talk about any of this is that back in, I think, OTP 24, maybe the game came out with this cool new draft pool feature where you can look at future draft pools. This does not work for our league, like, at all. So I would highly recommend reach out to me privately. I can maybe mention my filter in here, but do not look at the future draft pools and say, oh, 2044 draft pool is correct, because it's not. It lists a bunch of like high school juniors that aren't going to be ready until 2045. Like, it's not listing some college players. The draft pool is not set in stone until the day it's officially announced by the game. So you kind of have to use player filters. So like if you go into your league and you click like report, click the league, click reports and info, and click list all people players, and then just select like the various school levels, like college or high school and things like that. You can set up filters. So for high school, you would set up filters for high school seniors only. That'll show you who's coming up in this draft pool, and then set it to juniors. It'll show you the draft pool after that. That's pretty straightforward.
But Dylan, the feeder leagues are a pretty good resource to look at throughout the season,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
You like can look at the ages of these players and their status in college and high school, and say, okay, that player is definitely going to be coming out into the draft.
Right. And like the tougher thing is with college. So the college filter you need to use is you want their age to be at least 20 years old and their date of birth to be at least I guess it would be the day after the draft. So I have for this coming season, it's age is at least 20, date of birth is at least the 8th of June 2022. Because that means they're going to
both college feeder leagues.
Yeah, because that means they're going to turn 21 before the draft date begins.
And to your knowledge, all of those players who meet that criteria in college will be in the upcoming draft.
Right. Except you might need to tweak the date depending on when I have to double check when the draft actually is. That might not be fully accurate off the top. Right. Just because it's because the draft's not even scheduled yet. So once the draft gets scheduled, then you can kind of adjust it as you need to.
But on the high school feeder leagues, some of those players can choose to go to college and not be in the draft pool.
They will all be in the draft pool. All high school players will be in the draft pool. And with changes to OTP made, technically nobody's like impossible anymore. Like you can theoretically sign anybody that lasts for like $6 million. But
I like that change. The impossible tag was so annoying. Like what? Why even make them?
Don't put them in the pool then. Yeah.
But if they are not drafted or they're drafted and they don't sign, then
Then
they
they
usually
go.
they have a commit school where they're committing to. They will go to that college team then. And we usually see a few of those happen each year. But yeah, so that's kind of like the technical side of the draft pool first. I just want to open that up first.
So
And then good.
during the winter meetings, you mentioned that the board has noticed, and I don't remember the exact phraseology, but my term would be slightly juiced, draft players.
Oh yeah.
Is there any? And then there was a significant discussion about what can be done or what should be done.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you plan on doing? Because you know, the game might just sort itself out on its own if
Right.
we do nothing.
And that is the like ideal approach is when I don't have to do anything and the game fixes itself. But no, so we have two issues with draft pools right now. One of them we have basically no control over, or like the control we do have over it, we don't want to change anything. And the second we have more control over, but what you're saying, as you're saying, I think the game might sort it out, and it's not as bad of an issue as it should be. First issue is players who are really good and people ready coming out of like college. Don't see it as much for high school. That's something that we kind of can't really touch. Like we do not want to touch player generation modifiers. Those have been default forever. They're default when you make a new league. They're always default. Like I never want to ever touch those for whatever reason because I have no idea how bad the impact would be. I've looked at maybe the what is it? Is the dev lab an issue because they have access to the dev lab in feeder leagues. But if you look at like a lot, just looking at like the top stars, the ones who have gone to dev lab, they go for like base running or they go for like others. Like they're not cranking up their contact, their power. Like that's natural or well, as natural. Maybe they're all on drugs. Who knows? But as natural as it gets. So that's one issue, and that's like kind of just something we have to deal with, I guess. There's a little bit of realism, I guess, if you look at players like Nick Kurtz in the MLB, who like guys who just get up through the system quickly. I think Bryce Harper was similar when he came through. Guys who were just like they're just ready. I think we have a little too many of those in the draft pool, but it's kind of what we have, and it's kind of a mix of that and like the new rating system, and we just got to kind of deal with it. And then the other issue is the upcoming draft pools is like you said, there are a lot of juice players. There are a lot of very high potential, like we're seeing, 10 contact, 10 power, like a lot of guys like that. That is an issue that we can sort of tweak, but we probably don't need to. So there's a lot of things that could cause this. I mean, it could just be like OTP doing its thing. And again, it could be it adjusting to the fact that we have this new rating system. And a lot of our players, obviously from the older games, don't get anywhere near this huge ceiling that they've increased with the new ratings. So it's the game sort of making up for that and saying, hey, we want to start populating more talent into the system. And that's fine because in that case, it would be, rising all ships or whatever the saying is, right? Like everyone is sort of going to get up to that level at some point. So that hopefully that's the issue, and that's not something we have to adjust. But I will say, doing some sleuthing on some of these guys who are like really juiced, a lot of them are not nearly as good as it looks. Even if you have very high scouting on players, the way I think they might have adjusted scouting is they're almost looking at it as like you have very high scouting knowledge of this kid at this level. Like as much you can know about a high school kid from Nebraska as a major league scout, right? Because a lot of these guys who I'm seeing that are like tens and things like that, while they're good, they're not 10 potential. Like I think it's something we saw after the draft this year. I think we might have seen it last year too, where you draft a guy and then they immediately kind of look worse after you rescout them. I think that's what it is. So while the future draft pools are pretty juiced, it's not as crazy as it seems. So I'm kind of the solution right now is kind of to let it run because I don't want to get to the point where we're going through and having to delete players. Like that's going to be that's not realistic for like Mike who's running the Sims. That's not fun to like if you're watching this kid for 4 years in feeder league and he's just poof gone because we have to call numbers.
You're too
right?
good, yeah.
That's not fun.
Well, the game could decide to have them retire from baseball like they did with one of my top prospects, which
right.
I got on the same day that I got notified that my fan loyalty got dropped. I got notified that like my third or fourth best prospect decided to retire from baseball without ever making the major leagues. And I think he was in AAA performing well. And it's
Yeah.
like, he was a
Yeah.
first round pick. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting if D'Antonio decides to retire, you know.
Yeah. Well, and and the thing is, if this issue is caused by the game trying to like catch us up to the new rating system, if we go and delete 10 5-star players, it's probably
Just
just going to
gonna.
generate 10 more. So it's not going to
Yeah.
fix the problem. It's going to push it back. So I'm of the mindset to let it ride right now. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how these players look after they're drafted. Let's see how many of them are actually going to develop. Um,
What Dylan, what version? Because I thought it was last version that started this, where you seem to have more highly developed players in the
right.
draft, where
So these draft pools are from 2025 because we've only played one season in 26. So the draft pools we're going to have in the next few drafts were generated in 25. So yeah, I mean, it could have been a 25 issue. That I don't know. I don't know why. So they also did this whole rating thing. It's the same reason why we don't have many half-star potential players in the draft anymore. Like they raised this rating system to like there's so many like 2-star guys and 1.5-star guys. I don't know why they necessarily. Well, I know why they wanted to do it because they're idiots, but no, it's
Yeah.
it's a dumb system. I don't like how they've done it, and like they've really like made so many average looking players. But again, it's something that we can't change, right? It's something that we have to kind of deal with and adjust with. So ideally, we just let the game do its thing, and everything turns out fine. But it's something that we're obviously very actively keeping an eye on. We don't want to get out of hand because there's another issue tied into this that I mentioned. One of the possible solutions would be deleting feeder league teams, which we also don't necessarily want to do that because there's like a historical value. We like having this like very like feeder system in these leagues. They're actually really interesting to look at. But the issue stemmed from I want to say it was I don't know if it was 25 where it happened or 24. So for the longest time, feeder leagues only would only get a roster of players of 27 or 28 players max. At some point, the amount of players that they would get bumped up to 34 or 33. So and right off the top of there, that's an extra, what 7-8 players per team that are getting added to the draft. And naturally, the more players you have, the greater chance of like better players getting generated. And then there's a few teams, and if you remember a while back, we were culling players for a few seasons from the draft because there were too many players. That was to get this weird glitch where if a team stays under like I think it was 33 players on their roster, everything is fine because then when kids graduate, they'll get new players and they'll fill up to that 34 or 33 again. But if teams were over that mark, like they just would have limitless players. They would just kind of keep getting more and more each season. And we're seeing that happen again, where like there's some feeder league teams who have like 45 players on the roster. And the problem is you can't limit feeder league rosters because they just throw them onto the reserve roster and you can't get rid of the reserve roster. So no matter what, they're going to get these players, basically, is what the issue is. We're watching that as a separate issue. But like I said, we brought up potentially removing feeder leagues. We don't necessarily want to do that, which is one of the reasons I'm kind of hoping this kind of works out. We have more feeder teams than we probably should. But we always did that because it helped with quality, it helped with quantity. Like it worked better for our league and for PEBA, and to help fill like the colleges especially as well. But yeah, so two very different issues: potential and ability. Ability we have to deal with. Potential we can make tweaks for, but we probably shouldn't yet until we know a little bit more. We can see how these players turn out or see how the draft goes. But yeah, I mean, you got guys like D'Antonio, which are just absolute unicorn players, right?
Well, we were Sean and I were looking at this past year's draft with I think two of the more interesting players was that Mark Patterson, drafted first overall by Kalamazoo. He ended up getting 235 plate appearances with Kalamazoo, and he posted a 90 OPS plus. So struggled a bit, but despite his fairly high ratings, he didn't quite perform well. Now that might be just a normal game engine. Hey, a rookie at 21, coming into the majors after, very little, or he might have even had no minor league time. Maybe that's just how he's supposed to perform. Kind of a a slow progression before he can actually reach his potential. But then you
Right.
had that Tamari, that the closer. I mean, he hit the ground running, right, for the Avas. I
Mhm.
mean, he just put together a lights out season for half a season. That you know, uh, I was quite frustrated that he had fallen to the Avas. I was hoping somebody was going to grab him
You're
before that.
frustrated. I'm in his division.
Like the last team I wanted him to go on, but maybe Aurora. But this next last team I wanted him to go to was the Avas because they were so good. And they already had a good closer, I think, at the time. And you just add that arm to their bullpen. I'm like, oof, they're going to be real difficult. And
Yeah, yeah, and and to be fair, like Tamari at least looked better. He looks better than Patterson. He obviously he's what, 4.5 stars at least for me. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, I feel like there's something like on the back end that I can't see, like something in like the system itself that does what you mentioned, where it's like there's like some hidden secret thing that it's like, oh, these players still need to go to the minors, right? Like they look major league ready, but they're not necessarily because they don't have like the experience or whatever like this hidden attribute thing is. Um, but yeah, like I say, it's something we kind of have to deal with. It kind of sucks, um, to be fair. Um, but yeah, I
look,
mean,
we all know what's happening. The nice part about this is it's not like it's a secret to anybody. So
right.
we all of us are able to adapt to this new reality that we're dealing with these we'll call it slightly juiced drafts that may balance out, right? You said these drafts are probably developed from last version, um, and maybe it's going to balance out in future years, or maybe this is the new normal going forward. Who knows?
Yeah. So I mean, let's pretend that this is like the new normal and that we're gonna get like juice draft classes. As the quality of the league goes up, these players will start to look worse because the
Yeah.
ratings are relative. So naturally, the more good players that end up in the league, it's gonna mellow out a bit. As we as we get more players who are closer to that new rating ceiling that we mentioned. So like if that were the case, it would eventually balance out. It's just for like I said, for a few draft classes, it's gonna look a little weird because there's a lot of talent that's getting moved in.
Well, let's switch quickly to a more fun topic for you, Dylan, which is what do the Wind Dancers have to do to take back the division from the evil Avas?
Right? Prayer is a good option now. I'm at the point where I have a few like younger guys moving up, so it's we're getting to that point where a lot of my core guys are getting old. So like my third baseman's going to be gone here in a few seasons. Bars isn't going to be around too much longer. Hernandez won't be around too much longer. So it's these like I have Guerrero who's looking good, Norm Macdonald looking good. It's kind of just all about how these young players come in and actually how well they actually play. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been keeping an eye on Guerrero for a while, and I've been kind of like planning my future sort of around him to see how things happen. So, but
Looks like
again, a lot of it's luck.
you lost your left fielder. Was that to free agency?
No, I traded Coronado to London for a couple prospects just because I want to start Guerrero this year, and I didn't want to waste someone like Coronado on the bench or anything like that.
Yeah, because it looks like you're bringing back pretty much the entire team from this past season, correct?
Yep. So Coronado's gone. I lost my catcher, my longtime catcher, Kevin Newton. Um, I threw him a cheap little minor league contract offer, but I think he's getting courted by the WIL based on the contract demands he's asking for now because no one's paying in that in PEBA. So he's gone. Who else did I lose all the top of my head? Yeah, Coronado, Bob Burns retired. He was ancient, but he was actually one of my better relief pitchers. I lost Ryusei Saito, who was my platoon everything. He's been around for a few seasons, but yeah. So Coronado is really the only big loss, but I feel like I'm replacing him with a younger, potentially a lot more talented Guerrero. So he might suck his first year, but we'll see.
Well, I've heard that a certain GM in Aurora has been contemplating trading his star catcher. So, if you need a star catcher, anyone in the league, I heard that there one might be one available.
I would encourage anybody to try and acquire all of Aurora's best players.
I don't know if he has someone coming up, but he has Baroquez, who's been his backup. Then he has Hanson in AAA. I'm guessing he wants to call up, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. He
Well,
as a King does get paid a lot of money for. I guess he is one of the best catchers in the league. So, yeah,
Defensively, he is as good as they get.
yeah.
I just hope Mike spends his money this year.
He likes making money. We've talked about this. He is the most Aurora is the most profitable franchise, and I can see why.
Hey, his owner gets to keep a lot of money every year.
And I want to point out he is not the best catcher defensively because my
No,
17th rounder won the Gold Glove this year.
that's a
Uh-oh,
good
that'll
point.
get Mike riled up because you talk to
Well,
Mike about who the best
he is
catcher is. There's
well,
no
he's a
no doubt in his
two-time
mind.
yeah, he's a two-time Gold Glove winner. This Queen,
Yeah,
his ratings are, at least according to my scout, or his defensive ratings are excellent.
yeah.
But I've seen before where the ratings don't necessarily translate into the actual fielding statistics. So
right. And yeah, I mean, he looking at the back end, 12.2 framing. Obviously, it was also rough this year because everyone had a juiced
Yeah,
runners thrown out percentage. So it's like everyone looked
that doesn't look
incredible.
as good. Yeah.
Zone ratings pointless. He had 2 errors. That might have been it. I'm gonna see
what do you
my
look
guy.
for in defensive statistics when you're looking at catchers? Is it frame rate?
Yeah, frame rate, runners thrown out percentage, maybe errors here and there. Yeah, so Ito, my guy, had 1 error compared to his 2. That might have been the difference. But yeah, so I'm just looking. I'm looking at frame. Sarah, you can look at that. It's the ERA when he's catching. Yeah, catchers are a lot more straightforward. Where you can kind of just. I don't necessarily care as much about arm. Just give me the blocking and the framing. Just because I know inherently he's going to make my pitchers a lot better. He's going to make everything else better. So
So Sean and I
No,
have talked about this. Sean seems to believe that your hold runner on your pitcher is might be more valuable than catcher arm, but I would argue, catcher arm might be a little more important this coming season than it's been in last.
it may not be more important than catcher run, but it is by far like the most underrated, probably one of the most underrated ratings, like hold runner for like pitchers. It's something that gets overlooked a ton. Like you
That's
don't
not
necessarily.
something that DevLab has an ability to improve, does it? I know like base running
I
is
don't know.
in DevLab and stolen bases. There's like a speed stolen base component to
I
DevLab.
think it's just your improved catcher defense, but at least for the catcher arm thing. But I don't know if there's a hold runner for
I don't
pitchers.
remember
Yeah, I
seeing
don't
anything.
know.
That would be interesting because you're right, Dylan. That would be something that maybe if it was one of the easier DevLab ones, the shorter ones, that'd be something to play around with some of your pitchers, especially your starters.
I know we do. I know we have it for winter ball, so like that's always a good option too. If you have a pitcher who doesn't really like need much in terms of like pitches, or he's good enough defensively and stuff like that, like throw it at hold runners and sure.
I just thought it was pretty obvious that there's something there because you look at a team like New Orleans, and I think Chuck was upset his catcher didn't win the Gold Glove there, but if you look at he had like a 57% runners thrown out on his catcher or something, and the guy has a 6 arm. And I'm like, how does that even like I'm looking at my catcher Thompson, and he's got like he only threw out like 37.4%, but that's actually in line with like his career numbers more so. I'm like, how did this guy throw out so many runners? And I started looking more, and you look at New Orleans pitching staff, and a lot of them have high hold runner ratings. So I think probably because of the setting the way it was, it kind of influenced that a little bit too. But I was just like, how is a guy with a 6 arm like gunning people, gunning
Right.
people out on a high record, high amount? But
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely something to it. But
Yeah, and when we did the the winter ball CP stuff, the catcher arm is a little bit less valuable than like framing and blocking towards like the actual catcher score, like his positional score. So I would assume the engine is like it's a little less valuable for a catcher. Um, yeah, I should look at the hold runners to see how how much that actually affects things, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I'm a big Cardinal fan, and when I was a little kid, got to meet Lou Brock, and
Mm.
he had made the comment at like an event I was at of just that he didn't care how good the catcher was because the catcher's not throwing him out. It's going to be if he gets the jump that he needs on the pitcher. And he's like, I ran on Johnny Bench all the time. I didn't care if it was Johnny Bench throwing because I'm already gone. He has no chance of getting me. Like if I do
Yeah.
my job right.
Again, I'm a Mariners fan. Look at Josh Naylor this year.
Yeah,
Been one of the biggest dudes, slowest
big
dudes
dude.
in the
Yeah,
league. It's all about the jump. Like
yeah.
it's you know when to run, you're good.
I remember like Albert Pujols early on in his career was sneaky at stealing bases, where he'd
Mhm.
get like 5 or 10 stolen bases, and he's like the slowest guy on the
Yep.
base path. But it was all about getting the jump.
Mhm.
Well, guys, I think that's a good place to stop at. Dylan, thanks for joining us. We'll definitely have you on again, and hopefully there's no more settings or anything to talk about. We can just talk
Yeah.
about the league.
Yeah, I'd love for I'd love for some boring seasons where there's nothing dramatic going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
Great.
guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, we'll talk to
Yeah.
you again.
It was great, Dylan. Thanks.
All right. See ya.
From the lakes of Duluth to Havana's warm breeze, Reno's desert lights glow where the crowds ever free. Shinseki's wars with the bats held high. Yuma sandlot dreams touch the wide open sky. Palm Springs breathes the heat where the sun always shines. 32 teams united, crossing every line. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the Pebble game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 Pebba's the name, Pebba's the name. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. Scottish pipers cheer as the bases are run. New Orleans rhythm swings till the battle is won. Tempe's rolling the dice with the fastball surprise. Toyoma's precision lights up in our eyes. Now machines are strong where the dust meets the tree. Florida's golden fields where the champions gleam. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the Pebble game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 Pebba's the name, Pebba's the name. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. 32 dreams, one world, one fight. From dusk till dawn, we're burning so bright. Every pitch, every hit, every play in the zone. The Planetary Baseball Alliance, we're never alone. From the fields to the stands, hear the planet unite. PEBAheads the spark and we take it fly. Swing for the stars in the Pebble game. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 Pebba's the name, Pebba's the name. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. So raise up your gloves, let the banners fly high. From San Juan to Kalamazoo, we're reaching the sky. Planetary Extreme Baseball Alliance, where the legends are born. Swing for the stars, let the world hear our roar.